Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new unscripted series right here for Beyond ARTV. This is the debut episode, and there's going to be plenty more to come, I'm sure. It's called Hot Take Cafe, and as the title would imply, I'll be serving up hot takes for days, unpopular opinions that you might not agree with, but hopefully you can see where I'm coming from. Hey neighbor, welcome back to Hot Take Cafe. Pull up a chair, pour a cup of scalding hot coffee all over your body, and once the burns have died down, then tune in for what I have to say. Oh, this series is gonna be a lot of fun already. I can just tell. I can feel it in the comments section. Are we coming out of the gate swinging for episode 1? Well, we're starting somewhat mild. Maybe this won't be the biggest hot take out there, but my God, I am so sick of seeing all of these reunion tours that actually aren't that much of a reunion tour at all because they already had the farewell tour just a few years ago. This keeps happening over and over again, and I'm sure that there's fans out there that are just gonna throw money at it no matter what. They wouldn't come back if they didn't, but I think it's wrong for these bands or these artists to say, we're going away, and then they come back like a few years later. What is that? I have examples to back up what I'm talking about, and there are obviously times when a band can return, and it's a good thing, especially if they're just doing a tour, or maybe it's an anniversary show. Some of my favorite bands have done that. My Chemical Romance is doing that right now, and it's just tours. They were gone for a while. They never said, oh, we're gone forever. They maybe hinted at it, but they never said it outright. And also, it was more than just like a year or 2 or 3 in between. Think back to some of the biggest headlines that you can imagine in recent times and recent years in the world of music. We see bands reuniting or else announcing a very sad, oh no, it's the last show ever, it's the last tour ever, we have to get our tickets now. It's all about capital, baby. We gotta make it rain fat stacks of cash on Kiss and other bands apparently, because otherwise you might never see them again. Oh no, at this point, what a loss! So yes, I've already revealed one of the bands that I'm kind of upset with because they've already done it in the past, and I actually wrote out a few other examples. Kiss are a big one, because in the early 2000s, in fact, it was 2001, Kiss said, this is it, this is a farewell tour, we're never doing it again. And then guess what? What do? Within 3 years, they are back and they're touring again. And here at the end of 2019 into now 2020, we see Kiss announcing their second goodbye, farewell, this is it tour. Is it going to be it? Well, let's find out when Gene Simmons needs plastic surgery again, and I'm sure that they'll be right back on the road. I swear to God, if cloning was cheaper or making these replica versions a hologram that could go on tour while these people are actually still alive, I know a lot of these old-ass classic rock musicians, and I'm sure others too, would probably jump all over that. Now, I personally take issue with all of these bands that do step away, they call it quits, even some smaller groups, which again, this dates back to the title, Hot Take Cafe. I think of Motion City Soundtrack. They released their last album, Panic Stations, in 2016, went away in 2017, and then, in mid-2019, they're back. They're already back because their lead vocalist Justin Pierre put out solo material. It bombed so hard, no one really checked it out, and I cannot comment on the quality because I haven't heard it for myself, but they're already back to Motion City after saying, these are our last shows ever. Come see us or else this is it forever. And that was at the end of 2016, early 2017, and literally 2 years later, they're just back. They're permanently back too. It's not even like, oh, one night only. On a much bigger scale, think of Motley Crue, who went away in 2015. They played their last show on New Year's Eve that year. And then, just a few years later, they put out The Dirt, that movie on Netflix, the biopic, and everyone's like, oh, we're a little bit interested in Motley Crue. So what did they announce in September of 2019? Well, the band is back together. That is, if Vince Neil can hold it together to not pass out on stage. It makes me so sick to see these bands just milking their fans so hard. I mean, going to see a group on tour, if they're coming to your city, of course you're gonna want to do that. But preying on the people who are like, I might never get the chance again, I have to do this, and you market it that way, then that, in my opinion, is fucked up and crosses lines. Alexis on Fire is a post-hardcore band that went away in 2012 at the very end of that year. What's up with all of these New Year's shows? December 30th, actually, of that year. And they're like, oh, this is it. This is our farewell tour. And they had all of these kids come out to their shows. That's it. Forever. And then not even 3 years later, 2015, March of 2015, mind you, that's just over 2 years after the last farewell show, Forever, Alexis on Fire are back. And they're putting out new music now as of 2019. We got some of those singles. They're not very good. Definitely not up to par with the old stuff, but that's neither here nor there. It again draws back to the whole conclusion that I've already made several times. You said you were going away forever. People shelled out or else drove long distances, maybe even flew across entire countries to get to you for your farewell tour, only for you to come back and say, oh, we're doing it again, just kidding. There's a lot of other examples that I could pull out of the hat. And there's bands that have retired from touring, like Nine Inch Nails supposedly did that in like the late 2000s. And then a couple of years later, Hesitation Marks comes out. Oh, Trent Reznor and the crew, they're touring again. They're out playing all of the cities. And it's like, what changed in your head? I know that opinions change, but it's a little bit different when people's money or else their livelihood or something they're invested in is on the line. If you shelled out for merch that's like, oh, the last tour ever, oh, I was at the last show ever, and then they come back, it undermines literally everything that this fan maybe thought that they were getting to be a part of in your legacy. There's of course extenuating circumstances, but I can't help but kind of hold up a middle finger to some of these acts that really go all the way and say, this is it. You have to come now. Like, for example, if Elton John was like, okay, we're doing the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour, and then he's like a year later, oh, just kidding, I'm gonna play some more pop-up dates, and then he adds a full arena tour once again, because this one made so much damn money that he's swimming in it and is like, I want more. If, for example, he were to do that, not saying he would, then these are the type of things that I think are extremely fucked up. What also really gets to me are these bands that come back, and they're huge acts. They know that people will see them live, and they're not marketing themselves like, oh, this is it, these are our last shows. But for example, think of System of a Down, who play one-off dates all the time and have since like the early 2010s when they reunited, quote unquote. I have to say that because they've done nothing. The band members don't really get along all that much. At least they're not on the same musical page. It's well within anyone's right for a band to come back and I guess not make music, but for them to continually tour and only do it for very specific dates that don't even cater to your entire fan base. I think System are very guilty of hyping up these things on social media, and people think, will it be a full America tour finally? Or maybe some new music, and then they tease, and oh, it's just a one-off show. Oh no, it's another European tour, and tour as in 3 dates or something. That is not a full tour, System. That's not how it works. And Rage Against the Machine, for example, come back every few years, every 8 to 10 years, and they reunite, they do a few shows, they're doing it again in 2020, they're playing Coachella, of all things. I don't exactly see how that's against the establishment, but whatever. I still don't like it because it again pulls from the fans. It makes them go these long distances because they think maybe this is it. Maybe they'll never play again. Now, rewinding just for a moment, I want to close out this episode by talking about the whole, oh, I'm retiring thing, because I mentioned Nine Inch Nails and other live acts talking about how they were taking it off the road, they were only going to be studio musicians, only to realize that touring is where the money's at these days, and then they backpedal. But of course, retiring is a big thing in a very different subgenre and community in music. I would say that rappers have a very long history of claiming to retire and then never doing it. Why do you say it? It dates back to like Jay-Z in the early 2000s, who's at like the top of his game, early 30s, I'm retiring, only to come out of retirement like just a few months or years later, put out another record, and from there on out, you just keep kind of mostly nosediving a little bit. I mean, sure, there's great albums in there, but why do people continuously say that they're retiring, that this is it, and then they don't do it? Lil Wayne was supposed to retire at 35, and I don't see an end in sight. Is it a marketing tactic? What is it? Can somebody please explain to me why all of these rappers are supposedly retiring and then never do it? Because God knows some of the names that I read on that list, I want them to go away, at least in the musical form, forever. This is where I point the Hot Take Cafe question of the day back to you guys. What do you think about retiring in music, or else hanging up the band with a big old farewell tour only to come back just a few years later? What's an appropriate time period for someone to actually step away and say, all right, well, I feel like we could actually comfortably do this again, because God knows it's happened. Think of bands like Cream, or even some one-off little Beatles reunions, obviously with not all of the members, but still, it happens and it's fun, but it's not necessarily a cash grab, it's more so for the fans. But I'm talking about the ones that are clearly grabbing at a big old farewell tour and then they come back and do it all over again. It's the run and gun, it's the take the money and run, I guess I should say, but I would love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching the first ever episode of Hot Take Cafe. Let me know what else you'd like to see me go off on in the world of music in the comments section, and maybe I'll make it happen right here on Beyond ARTV. Don't forget to leave me a like to support this new show, and subscribe for the love of music, and other than that, connect with me on socials, and I'll see you soon on Beyond ARTV.